Last work of art today is one of my favorites. He's called the Seated Boxer. Isn't he wonderful? He is the original bronze sculpture. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, how did he survive in such wonderful condition? Well, he had been buried under streets of Rome sometime during antiquity. This is how he was, or where he was discovered in 1885. He was discovered at a construction site. So as they were digging down in the foundation, they found him and various other ancient Roman spaces. This area of the capital city of Rome had been heavily attacked and bombarded and invaded in antiquity, and so most likely people of the city had buried him as a way to protect him from destruction, and it worked, and we found him. Now, this is a dramatized kind of view of how it happened, but this is the site where he was found, and obviously he wasn't like just sitting there like, la la la, super chill. But I like to give you a little bit of reference, and that's why he's so wonderfully preserved. We know that he is a boxer because he's wearing boxing gloves. And he's naked. What? Yes. He is a Greek athlete who boxes. The Greeks, they loved boxing. This here is showing you these two young men in a boxing match. But remember, just like in your gymnasiums where you were fighting naked or you're working out naked, boxers would be naked except for these gloves here. And these gloves, they're not like what we know to be boxing gloves today. These gloves are brutal. These gloves are described, we only have a few artifacts that have survived from antiquity, but these boxing gloves were padded pieces of leather that were attached at your knuckles through the use of thong. So you would have this kind of sleeve of animal skin with this padding on the knuckle, and then it would be attached or tied, wrapped around your wrist and your fingertips with this like leather thong. So that's what we see here. We see the padding at the knuckle, and then we see the leather thong straps. These boxing gloves are brutal, right? And I mean, just imagine the force of those muscles. So we see this boxer, but he's not boxing. He's wearing boxing gloves. What we're meant to do is walk around the figure and try to piece together more of the story. Now remember, he's made of bronze. He would have originally had some inlays, flesh tones for the lips. His eyes would have been inset with some kind of a stone to give it more lifelike appearance. And let's just look at this figure. I want you to look at the details, and then I want you to tell me what story you've put together. So tell me, what's going on? What's happening? Who is this man? What's his story? Let me ask you this question. Is he new to boxing, or has he been doing this for a while? He's been doing this for a while, okay. Well, how do you know? Because of his build, because of his face, because of his ears. Okay, let's look at the build, his body. His body is massive. Look at this back. The muscles in this back have been conditioned to give deadly force to those arms, right? This guy's built. And then you mentioned his face. You see a nose that's been broken repeatedly, lips that have been cut and scarred from breaking open on teeth. In fact, what we're missing in this image here is that the teeth inside would have been broken. Little silver teeth, but broken silver teeth. You mentioned his ear. What's going on with that ear? What's the big deal with that? It's cauliflowered. This type of ear, it's often referred to as a wrestler's ear. Your ears are not made of bone, and they're not made of skin. They are collagen, right? And so this is a phenomenon, not a phenomenon, this is a natural thing that happens when your cartilage is repeatedly, or is broken repeatedly. Cartilage doesn't heal like skin, and cartilage doesn't heal like bone. Cartilage can create these kind of ridges and scars and swelling, and that's what we're seeing here. The ear has been repeatedly broken, and scar tissue and swelling creates this, what we call it cauliflower, because it kind of looks like a cauliflower vegetable. So he's got these cauliflower ears, which indicate a lot of time, or I should say, a lot of repeated blows to the head. Also, these pieces right here are copper. So again, remember, he would have been polished to this beautiful bronze, and then that copper would be pink. It's the pink of his blood. Here, the residue here, there was copper inlays in these portions of his cheek. So you can just see these open wounds. Open wounds? Okay, so he's an experienced boxer. What's he doing right now? He's sitting down. Sitting down from what? I heard you said it. Maybe he fought a match. Maybe he fought a boxing match. Or maybe he's resting in between rounds. Absolutely. So what we see here is a boxing match without the boxers. Instead, we just see one of the opponents. And we see the evidence of the fight. You see those knots on his forehead? We see the open gashes. We don't need to know that this was a brutal fight by seeing it, because we see it all over his body. We see it in those gloves. Just imagine those same gloves bashing in on this guy's face. It's dramatic, right? Okay. What's he looking at? Some students will say he's looking at the crowd, the onlookers, the audience. Some students say he's looking at maybe like a coach. Some students say he's looking up at the gods. He's activating the space beyond him. And this is a term that I want you to start using. What we have here is called open composition, an artwork that is not self-contained but refers to other implied elements outside of itself, outside of its own space. So technically, the chieftain killing himself and his wife, that was also open composition because it's activating and implying something beyond to complete the story. Activation of space is not the same thing as open composition. You can be activating the space without making reference to something else. Here, does this make more sense if I put something in there? Activation of the space isn't implying another piece of the story, like somebody else in this room. Like maybe you in this room, and he's looking at you. So we have our open composition. What, and I already asked you it, but I'm going to ask you it again. What is he looking at? What has happened in this boxing match? Did he win? Or is he winning? No? Why? How can you tell? Tell me. How can you tell he's not winning? Well, he's got this furrow in his brow. The way that his shoulders slump, he looks exhausted and not happy. He also has an open back. A boxer is lethal from the front, but he is vulnerable from behind. So we see a vulnerable man who is resting, tired. Perhaps his look for his open composition, some students say maybe he's looking for guidance from a coach, looking for advice for the next round. Some students say maybe he's looking at his opponent who just beat him up, who just won. Some students say maybe he's looking up at the gods, asking for guidance, or maybe asking, why have you forsaken me? I thought we had a deal. Do you think he's going to give up, though? Is this it? Is he like, done, I'm retiring after this, I'm just going to go home? Wait, don't answer it just yet. Let's look back at a full piece again. Let's think about diagonal lines. See the diagonal line of his body turned down. We see the diagonal line of that leg. Look at that foot. So I'll ask you again, is he going to retire? Is this it? Or will he fight again? When I ask this in class, most students will say, he's going to rise up. He's going to fight again. Where do you see that? How do you know? Look at his feet. They are not resting. His feet are still active. His feet still rise up. They're still engaged in this moment. It's that moment of, I will get up and I will do this again. There's this energy flowing through him. We've also seen an athlete in this class. Let's do a comparison. Oh, I heard you. You went, oh, your eyes went up, and I know, right? Remember Myron's discus thrower? Oh, so fantastic, so beautiful, so perfect. How is the seated boxer characteristic of the Hellenistic? Well, what's happened to our beautiful, perfect athlete? He's defeated? He's the loser? The discus thrower was a celebration of the body and mind coming together in this perfect balance of dedication and movement. And here we see that same body that's been working hard for his craft, but it is at rest. And it has lost. It is not victorious, but it will rise again. Many art historians interpret the seated boxer as perhaps indicative of Greek culture at this time. The seated boxer was cast during the end of the Hellenistic period. And what brings about the end of the Hellenistic period is the rise of the Romans. Now, next week, we will start turning our attention to the Italian peninsula. We will start looking at Rome very soon. Remember how our timelines will overlap? The Hellenistic world comes to an end as we see the establishment of Rome in Greek territories. Art historians interpret the seated boxer as the Greeks, or as the Hellenic world. The Hellenic world has been a powerhouse, a beast, and it is losing territory. It is losing control, and it is repeatedly being defeated by Rome. But is this maybe a sense of optimism, of that energy to fight still within? Who knows? Powerful, right? So Hellenistic.